You're 30, 40, 50 feet underwater like this, and then all of a sudden you see these bull sharks start swimming closer and closer to you. Okay, my friends, here it is. So, if you recall from last time, I am living on a small island in the Gulf of Thailand called Koh Tao. And I have just become a professional scuba diver. It's been there several months already. And one of my students, who happened to be like a fashion model type European woman from Vienna, Austria, she came back to the island and is now living with me in the bungalow. I can't stress how amazing this time in life was, because I had come from being so alone and depressed in my life in America to now so healthy and happy and alive, and everybody is feeling good. We're getting sunshine every day. We're getting the salt water on us and in us, and we're eating fresh food from the ocean, fresh fruits, drinking lots of water, exercise all day. Look here, we used to call this the fish bowl. So when you saw a huge school of fish, millions of fish, I guess that many, nobody counted, but millions of fish, and you would go over to it and you could drop down into the school of fish, and they would part ways and they would start swimming around you, all around you, millions of fish. Then there was the whale shark, and this is the underwater sign language because you can't talk. So when we saw a whale shark, we would say, and this thing is massive, guys. A mouth the size of a garage door. It's so majestic. This was our second or third one at this time. But then there were the actual sharks. And so at one of the dive sites, there were bull sharks that used to like to hang out. And so we would jump in and we would go down there and start looking. And before long, you would see these bull sharks that are this big around, maybe 10, 12, 15 feet long, something like that. And imagine this, guys. You are down there breathing through a little tube like this, looking around, and you barely can move at all. And then you're 30, 40, 50 feet underwater like this, and then all of a sudden you see these bull sharks start swimming closer and closer to you. Well, thankfully, nobody at that place had ever been attacked by any of the bull sharks for whatever reason. There were actually these triggerfish. We used to call them triggerfish. That's what we used to, the sign language for it. And These things were highly territorial and aggressive, and they have huge teeth and jaws because they chomp down on clams and oysters and rocks and all this kind of stuff, bust apart all the shells to eat the stuff. And so they would attack you like this. And here we are underwater getting attacked by the triggerfish. So guys, a lot of people ask me how I learned to cook all of these many different delicious dishes, and living on Koh Tao was definitely one of the places where I got to experience such diversity of cuisine. Every night, the group, the tight-knit family of divers and travelers, we would be having dinners at different people's bungalows. And so we would figure out who would have the dinner, and then we would go, and they would provide everything because we would also be providing in our turn as well. And you would cook something sort of based upon your culture. And so we had German sauerkraut, canoodle, Würstchen, things like this. We had Spanish tortillas. What are they called? Tortilla con patatas. So many different things, so much flavor, so much diversity. It was delicious. So the culmination of becoming a dive master, you have to prove yourself worthy of guiding other people and being there, being able to keep it together underwater in an emergency. And so we have what is called the stress test. And so here is some footage of my stress test, me and Jackie, and they essentially do all kinds of things to you while you're underwater. And we have to switch our gear, our BCD, we have to switch all the gear between each other and breathe through one regulator the whole time. The other instructors are trying to mess with us, throwing sand on our face and everything. The whole time you're about 30, 45 feet underwater. So put yourself in this position and check it out. So every so often, you have to do what is called a visa run when you're living long-term in Thailand. And essentially, you just have to leave the country and then come right back in, for the most part. Things are very different in Southeast Asia. And so we did a visa run to Burma. And so we're on a little boat. We have to pay this guy to take us on a little boat to the immigration office, which the immigration office is just on stilts in the water made of wood. Like telephone poles and stuff like that. And so it's worth noting that at this time, Burma had the death penalty for marijuana offenses. And I knew this going into it, so I was sure not to bring anything, even though we like to partake on the island, of course. So as soon as we pulled up to the immigration office, which is like a hut in the water, there was a guy standing there in combat boots, aviators, and it looked like a Russian military surplus AK-47 with a German Shepherd. And As soon as we docked up, the guy was like, blah, 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 and told us to put the bags up there on the dock. So we did, and he brings the dog down, and I'm like, whoa, boy, thankfully I don't have nothing in there. The girl I was with whispered in my ear, Nate, I've got a couple joints in the bag. And I thought, and I'm just staring thinking, oh, this is it, man, this is it. We're actually in trouble this time. And so as I'm waiting for the world to collapse, all of a sudden the dog just turns around and walks away. And my stomach came back up, or my heart came back up. I don't even know what came back up. And it was, oh, okay, back to the island. So, what made this experience with the Austrian lover so intense and beautiful is that we were entirely present with each other. We were not planning for the future. We were not even thinking about any of that. She came back for whatever reason to live with me and in the bungalow, to live together and have the new bungalow experience, the island romance experience. But I was still very young at this time and green to the ways of the world and women and stuff. And so I never even questioned why she was able to leave her life like that and why, or what kind of life she had back home. I never even asked any questions about anything. And neither did she, which was great. But the other side of that is that the time eventually comes when you have to make a move. And so the time came when she had to go back to Vienna. And I didn't think it was gonna be a big deal. Hey, no problem, I'm free, gypsy, yeah, I'm just gonna keep diving. Maybe there'll be another girl come along soon, yeah. You know, because that was my experience on the island up until that time. But when she left the island, it was not like that. Everything changed. Because we had built like a life together. Everyone knew us. And see, it was like 3 or 4 months in total. But when you're living that type of lifestyle, that seems like a lifetime because it's nonstop new experiences. Everything is new and fresh and you're learning, and every day seems like it's a week long. And so it just seemed like a lifetime. And when she went away, then now the island was suddenly everything that was so, was suddenly just not. It was just not fun anymore. And I didn't want to have to start anything with another woman because I was tired of the shallowness of that. And I think that I really enjoyed going deep with this woman, with this experience. And so when she left, I went into a deep state of mourning. Not knowing what any of this is, of course, but things on the island would never be the same. And then I got into a wreck on my motorbike as soon as she left. And a dog ran out in front of me, bam, hit the ground. And I had this horrible gangrene looking thing and it wouldn't heal because of how hot and humid that everything is. I was still diving sometimes and that was just making it super worse. So I had to stay out of the water for several weeks. And this sunk me into a depression, guys. I was like, everything had suddenly lost its luster and the depression had found me again. Even though I was in this amazing place and I was doing these amazing things and all this stuff was just so phantasmal, still, it had found me again. I was wanting more. I needed something else. I needed another fix. I needed another, I didn't know what. Something, I just didn't feel comfortable in my skin. I just needed to go on. The island had served its purpose. And so I packed up my bags and went home to America with the plan of working for just a couple of months and then getting a motorcycle and traveling through Mexico and South America by motorcycle. That is what I had my sights set on, and so the island had come to an end, my friends, back home.